continuation of the discussion on the Yoga Sutras. This meeting will be recorded and it will be posted on YouTube. If you have missed any of the previous discussions, you may find it on YouTube. If you have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourselves and ask. Please use the raise hand feature of Zoom in order to maintain the queue. If you are not speaking, please mute yourselves in order to minimize the disturbances. Thank you.
Recording in progress.
Yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya cha vaitigena yopakurutam pravaram muninam padanjalim pranchaliranatosmi stuve padanjalim vyasam shankaram cha munitrayam katra sutrasya bhashyasya kramadvivaranasya cha. There are a few sutras in the fourth chapter, that is Kaivalyapada, which can be understood only in the light of some systems of Buddhism, because Patanjali doesn't agree with some of the metaphysical doctrines of Buddhism like Vijnanavada and Shunyavada. So, perhaps those of you who may not be familiar with the different systems of Indian philosophy, including Buddhism, may need some explanation of this. So, after some sutras, we will come to that, then I will discuss. So, the last sutra we discussed was Hedu Phalasyalambanehi Samgrihita Tuad Yesham Abhave Tadabhavaha. That we already discussed this combination, how one after another each of these characteristics lead to this accumulation of bondages. We already discussed. So I'm not going to repeat them again, but now the next sutra. Those of you who got doubt, you can ask at that time. But one important point to be kept in mind is the 10th sutra, Tasam Anadittum Cha Ashisho Nityatvad. This sutra tells you that vasanas, that is tendencies and characteristics and impressions in our mental system, they are beginningless. They don't have a beginning. That's because desire itself is beginningless from that respect. Next sutra is Atita Anagadam Surupado Asti Adhyabeda Dharmanam. So, need some explanation. First of all, let us see the word. Dharma here means characteristics or qualities. Adhyabeda means, in Sanskrit, it's called Kala Bheda, means past, present and future. Adhya means time. And how do we understand time? Time is understood in terms of the past, present and future. So everything exists all the time. That's what it means. So what we see now is openly manifest. And what we already experienced in the past, they also exist, but in subtle form, and what is to come in future also exists in subtle form. When they become manifest, it is called abhivyakta in the language of Patanjali. It becomes manifest. In other words, everything exists all the time. Now, this needs some understanding, some philosophical discussion. According to Patanjali's system, effects also exists in cause. So, if you can think of the entire creation or existence, you can divide them into three categories when you think in terms of time. That is past, present and future. Now, what Patanjali tells you is this very simple, in simple language. What you see in front of you is the present. That present already existed before it becomes abhivyakta or manifest. For example, a tree. A tree exists in the form of a seed. And when the seed evolves, it becomes a tree. So the tree is the effect and the seed is the cause. When suppose you have a pot of clay, a pot made of clay, or let's say a golden ornament, an ornament made of gold in front of you. According to one school of Indian philosophy, the ornament existed before let's say a jewelry maker, or maybe who is the one who manufactures ornaments from gold. Before he actually manufactured the golden ornament, the golden ornament existed in the form of gold. And through the instrumentality of the manufacturing process and the let us say the one who makes the ornaments, the gold becomes golden ornament. A pot made of clay exists in subtle form, in the form of clay, before a pot maker converts the clay into a pot. And even after you break the pot continues to exist in the form of clay. In other words, the effect pre-exists in cause. This is one important view in Indian philosophy. So this is an important point. Remember, a few important teachings of Sankhya philosophy, which is the basis of yoga philosophy, and also some schools of Buddhist philosophy also should be discussed before we come to the next few sutras, because Patanjali wrote these sutras keeping in mind these philosophical doctrines. So one school is called Satkaryavada, and its contrary view is called Asatkaryavada. Satkaryavada means the karya, the effect exists in the cause. Just as I meant, a tree pre-exists in the seed. A pot pre-exists in the clay out of which the pot is made. The pot is the effect, and the clay from which the pot is made is the cause. So, even before the pot maker makes the pot exists, but it is not abhivyakta, it is in subtle form. It is in the sukshma form. That's the idea behind. It is called Satkaryavada. Its opposite is called Asatkaryavada. So maybe those of you are interested, this also may be interesting for many of the students of philosophy. So this Satkaryavada, that means the doctrine that effect pre-exists in cause, was held by Sankhya philosophers, and also it is the view of Advaitins and other non-Advaita Vedanta schools like Ramanuja, Madhva, Vallabha and others. They all exist, they all believe, they all accept this doctrine of Satkaryavada. Of course, there is a difference between the interpretation of Satkaryavada by Advaitins and also by Visishtadvaitins and Dvaitins. That's a different matter. Advaitins believe when the effect is made, it is only apparent transformation. Visishtadvaitins believe that when the cause becomes the effect, it is real transformation. So, under this Satkaryavada, there are two other subsidiary schools. One is called Parinamavada, which accepts the doctrine that when the cause becomes the effect, it really undergoes real transformation. It's called Parinama. Parinama means real transformation. According to Advaita, when the cause becomes the effect, that transformation is not actually real, it is only apparent. For example, if you accept the example of let's say clay becoming the pot or gold becoming golden ornament, you can very easily understand when I tell you that actually gold doesn't undergo any transformation except in terms of shape and form, and also a new name that the golden ornament gets when gold becomes the ornament. Gold is called gold, and when it becomes an ornament, it is called an ornament. So there is a difference with regard to shape, form, name, and also utility value. So Nama, Rupa, and Vivahara Bheda, it is called. Nama means name. A golden ornament is called a golden ornament. Before it became golden ornament, it was gold. Its form also different. Golden ornament has a definite form. Gold can be of any form. And also its Vyavahara means its utility value. Now, therefore, Advaitins believe transformation is only apparent transformation. It is called Vivartavada. It's an important thing to remember. It's called Vivartavada. It means transformation is not real transformation, it is only apparent transformation, which is more logical, really speaking. The Brahman doesn't become this universe. Brahman, when it is seen to be in association with Nama and Rupa, it is called Jagat, or the world. When you become a Jivan Mukta, when you become a liberated soul, you will be still living this world, you will be experiencing this world, but you will be only experiencing the world as non-different from Brahman. According to Ramanuja, on the other hand, God himself becomes the universe. It's called Parinamavada. Sankhya philosophers also believe in the Parinamavada. So this is an important point to remember. So you can see this Atita Anagatam Surupataka Asti Adhabheda Dharmanam. That means from non-existence, existence cannot come into existence cannot come into existence from non-existence. Nothing can exist from non-existence. In other words, the future, that is Anagata, and Bhuda, that is Atita, they may not be manifest, still they exist in a Vyakta's form, means in subtle form. What does it mean? It means, just like saying, the golden ornament pre-exists in the form of gold before it became golden ornament. And when that golden ornament is turned into something else by a goldsmith, then also the same gold exists, but in another form. So, past, present and future are seen in a single dimension, as a single line according to the Sankhya philosophers. This is an important point to keep in mind for a proper understanding of the coming sutras. Te Vyakta Sukshma Gunatmanaha, and then Parinamayigatva Vastu Swami Chitta Bheda Tayo Vibhakta Pantha. All these sutras can be understood only in the light of a proper understanding of the doctrine of Parinama, means the doctrine of evolution according to Sankhya philosophers, and how it is perceived and interpreted in different ways by different schools of philosophy. Now, according to, of course, Sankhya philosophers, as you know, there is an important verse in the Sankhya Karika, which actually gives you an idea of these 24 principles of Sankhya philosophy. Mula prakriti ravikriti mahadadhyaha prakriti vikritaya sapta shodashagastu vikaro na prakriti na vikriti purushaka. This is the third verse of Sankhya Karika by Ishvara Krishna. What it means is, Prakriti is one, that is the source of our evolution. And from Prakriti, Mahatattva emerges. Mahatattva can be called cosmic intelligence, Hiranyagarbha in Vedanta. And from Mahatattva, the cosmic ego emerges. The cosmic ego or other elements emerge. From cosmic ego, the senses of perception, senses of action and mind, all these 11 evolutes emerge from Sattvika Ahankara. And from Tamasika Ahankara, 5 Tanmatras and 5 Panchamahabhutas emerge. So the word Shodashaka may be used in the Vyasa's commentary. What it implies is Jnanendriyas, Karmendriyas and mind plus 5 Mahabhutas. So this is an important point to remember. First of all, the concept of real transformation is called Parinamavada, the school of Parinama, and the concept of apparent transformation is called Vivartavada, according to Advaitins mostly, and also some schools of Buddhism like the Shunyavada, they also accept some kind of Vivarta, somewhat different from what it means for Advaitins. So you can see in the previous sutras, for example, we discussed this earlier. Experiences give birth to raga and dvesha. Our experiences in life create in our mind extreme infatuation to certain things, extreme aversion to certain things, and then from this a memory emerges. So they are interrelated, and actually when we remember an experience, from that remembrance, memory, only we develop these extreme likes and extreme dislikes. And from extreme likes and dislikes, again the memory gets strengthened further. And again, this memory is coming from samskaras. If we have an experience and if we immediately forget it, if our experience or whatever experiences we have, if they don't leave any residual impact on our mind, then we won't remember. So the remembrance is created by samskara. Samskara is a unique term exclusively that you found in the Yoga Sutra literature, especially elaborately expounded by Vyasa. And the samskara is again coming from experience, and experience also related to actions. So in fact this is a kind of vicious cycle. They go on. But when a yogi transcends all vrittis and samskaras, what happens is, at one stroke, all these are completely neutralized. He transcends all this. That's why in the early sutra we've already found here, Hedu phala asrayalambanehi samgrihidatva esham abhave tadabhavaka. So these experiences, memories, raga and dvesha, extreme likes and dislikes, and again they re-emerge in our mind, and when they re-emerge in our mind, we again remember. The remembrance reinforces memory, and memory again can activate samskaras, and when these samskaras are activated, we do certain things, we don't do certain things, guided by raga and dvesha. Now it is a kind of prison, we call. It's actually a complex tentacle. like a prison house. They are all interrelated. Hedu, Phala, Asraya and Vishaya. Hedu means cause, Phala means effect, Asraya means support, Alambana means different objects. These are all interrelated. When you actually get this Vidambhara Prajna that we discussed earlier, and when you actually succeed in this Vritti Nirodha, what happens? We get complete freedom from this tentacle. This Hedu, Phala, Asraya and Alambana. Means cause, effect, support and different objects. All these completely disappear. We become free. Or what happens? In other words, the samskaras become like a burnt seed. They don't disturb us any longer. Now, this is one important aspect of Yoga Sutra. Second point that should be kept in mind is, it's again is related to Buddhist philosophy. So you can find after the 15th sutra, Vastu Swami Chitta Bheda Tayo Vibhakta Panthaha means. See, this we actually see the same object, and this continuity of memory of having experienced or seen something, it continues. So this again can be called a refutation of one school of Buddhist philosophy called Vijnanavada. It's called subjective idealism, which tells you that external objects are totally unreal. So I shall try to explain a few important things about the background of Buddhist philosophy and why Patanjali contradicts these schools of Buddhism. So those of you who are not familiar with the evolution of Buddhist thought may suddenly get away with the impression that is very natural, especially in these modern times when people read everything only from online, from internet. Now remember, Patanjali is not contradicting Buddha. Patanjali is only contradicting certain views that emerged in Buddhist tradition maybe 500, 600 years after Buddha's passing away. So for that you need some introduction. First we must remember, Buddha himself did not expound any of these philosophical doctrines in detail. What Buddha taught was essentially the Four Noble Truths. That means there is the reality of sorrow, incompleteness, dukkha satya. And there is a reason for it, there is a way out of it, and the way out of is nirvana, which we can attain by following the Ashtanga Marga. Means Samyak Smriti, Samyak Sankalpa, Samyak Ajiva, etc. Right conduct, right remembrance, and right livelihood, and right concentration, Samyak Samadhi. Like that, I don't have to go to those details. So Buddha fundamentally taught only two important things. One, the reality of incompleteness or sorrow or grief, and the way out of it. And the way out of it is called nirvana. These are two things that he taught. And along with that, he also discusses from fundamental humanistic spiritual doctrines. And he passed away, most probably he passed away in the year 480. Almost 80 years after his passing away, in the first Buddhist council, many of the disciples of Buddha, according to some historians, this happened even earlier, just maybe a few years after Buddha's passing away. We don't know. Anyway, many of the Buddhist monks who still remembered Buddha's original teachings from different sources, they remembered and they put together, and the result was these Tripitakas, three important canonical traditions in early Buddhism: Sutta Pitaka, Vinaya Pitaka, Abhidhamma Pitaka. They together discussed the fundamental teachings of Buddha, the moral and ethical and institutional organizational disciplines to be followed by different Buddhist monastic traditions, and different views on austerity, and Buddha's humanistic, ethical, moral doctrines. They called Tripidakas, and in fact, it is all in Pali language, like for example Dhammapada, which is part of Sutta Pitaka. Now, after about 300 years, 400 years after Buddha's passing away, 4 distinct schools of philosophy emerged within Buddhism. Of these, 2 schools were schools of idealism, the other 2 were 2 schools of realism. The schools of realism were called Sautrantikas and Vaibhashikas, who did not deny the existence of everything, and who believed in some degree of reality of external things. Sautrantikas and Vaibhashikas. Some of them believed that the external things can be perceived through direct perception, pratyaksha vadinaha, and others believed through inference, that is called anumeya vadinaha. But Patanjali had no problem with them, because Patanjali himself is a realist. He accepts the reality of external objects. But the other 2 schools of philosophy are idealistic schools. One is called Vijnanavada, which is a school of subjective idealism, which rejects the reality of external objects. It's called Vijnanavada. Okay, another name by which it is known is Yogacara, school of Buddhism. Mindfulness and many of these ideas, many of the concepts actually emerge from the Yogacara, Vijnanavada literature. Of course, they are also important for, this Hinayana system, Hinayana school of Buddhism, also more traditional schools. So, according to this Vijnanavada, the external objects have no real existence. They exist only so long as we have awareness of them. Everything comes and goes. Of course, in this Vijnanavada system, there are 2 stages. One is called Alaya Vijnanavada, the earlier school, then Pravritti Vijnanavada by Dignaga and others. We won't go into those details. Later, we have plans to begin maybe lectures on Indian philosophy. The other school was Shunyavada, mostly attributed to Nagarjuna, and the well-known book is Mula Madhyama Shastra or Madhyamika Karika, in which Nagarjuna asserted very clearly that the absolute reality is Shunya. Evam cha na nirodhosti na cha bhavosti sarvada ajadam aniruddham cha tasma sarvamidam jagat. This of course, this all find in Mahayana. And Mula Madhyama Karika also Nagarjuna says, Dvesatye samupasitya buddhanam desha sevana loka samvriddhi satyam cha paramarthataka. So paramartha satyam, the ultimate truth for them is Shunya. By Shunya, Nagarjuna perhaps did not mean absolute nothingness as frequently translated into English. He was not talking about absolute nothingness. He was actually talking about the fundamental indescribability of the absolute reality. So that is, anyway, that's a different subject. We will discuss it later. So the main point in this context is, in Vyasa's commentary, which is very important when we discuss this sutra, Vyasa tries to make it very clear that external things do exist. They are not unreal as asserted by Vijnanavadins. They are real. And of course, there is one sutra that Vyasa inserts in his commentary, Na chaiga chittatantram vastu tada pramanagam tada kim syar. This is a sutra which sometimes is not found in many of the versions of Patanjali Yoga Sutra text. Sometimes they say it is Vyasa's statement in the Bhashya, but we do not know. What it means is that vastu means external objects. It is not subjected to chitta. Na chaiga chittatantram vastu. I mean, external objects are not just imaginations projected by mind as asserted by Vijnanavadins. This statement sometimes is interpreted as an independent sutra. In that case, you have to say there are 196 sutras in Patanjali system. But there are many scholars who would say that this is actually just a part of Vyasa's commentary itself. So, what the statement means is this. It's in a way, so you have to remember, this is a sutra attributed to Vyasa, who, while trying to expound 15th sutra, Vastu Swami Chitta Bheda Tayo Vibhakta Panthaha means. That means the same, I mean, we have got awareness and vrittis, vasanas and samskaras about the same object. And these awareness, memories, samskaras, tendencies, they go on changing. Therefore, the external object and vijnana, that is chitta or mind, are different. This is how Vyasa expounds this sutra, 15th sutra, Vastu Swami. I mean, about the same object. Vastu means the same object. About the same object, we have got awareness. Different people have different ways of becoming aware of an object, and they again different tendencies, different attitudes to the same object. Now, this can be understood only if you believe that external objects and mind are two different things. The reason is, according to Vijnanavadins, external things are just projections emerging in your mind. External things have a reality, an ontological existence only if you are aware of them. Otherwise, they don't exist. External objects have no real ontological existence except when you are aware of it. So, everything is a projection of the mind. That is the view of Vijnanavada. And Vyasa won't accept it. So, Vyasa says, Na chaiga chittatantram vastu. Vastu na chittatantram. External objects are not necessarily projections of the mind dependent upon our memory, our awareness for their existence. Because if it were so, then what happens to them when nobody is aware of it? If nobody is aware of something, can you say that object is non-existent? Therefore, external objects do have a reality, ontological reality, independent of our awareness, independent of Vijnanam. So the word Vijnanam, of course, Vijnanam according to Buddhists, it means the mental platform. That's the meaning of Vijnanam according to Vijnanavadins. That means it meant Chittam, Jnanam, Vijnanam. Of course, they use these terms interchangeably in the Mahayana literature. Mahayana literature means the Mahayana school of Buddhism gave birth to these two schools of idealism. One is Vijnanavada, the other is Shunyavada. Of which Shunyavada says everything is Shunya, everything is, non-existent. They believe both the subject and object are both are unreal. So, of course, there are different views about Shunya. That's a different subject. We'll discuss later on another occasion. And Vijnanavada says the external objects do have a reality only as projections of mind. If you detach external objects from the awareness of those objects, then they do not have an independent existence. These are two different schools. I think you can discuss. Those of you have got any doubt about these views, you can discuss before we go to the next sutras. Of course, the sutras are important. We are coming to some of the sutras which discuss elaborately the metaphysical views of both Buddhism, Sankhya systems of philosophy, and interchangeably you will also find references to other schools of philosophy. You are most welcome to ask questions on this subject now.
Can I ask a question now, or should I
Yeah,
wait?
you can ask now. Yeah, this is question session. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, if we see a brand new foreign object which did not exist before, we had no memory of it, I'm a little confused as to how is this consistent with the notion that everything pre-existed, your seed and tree analogy.
Yeah.
I got a little confused with the sense.
Yeah.
I know there are two schools of thought, and I'm probably mixing them together.
That's precisely the reason why I thought today we will have this session, because the coming sutras can make you more confused if you don't understand things at this stage. So first of all, what it means, things can take different forms, different manifestations, but the reality behind those manifestations are the same. That's what it means. So every change only indicates a change in terms of shape, form, name, utility, external appearance, and whatever it is. Suppose if you are talking about an electronic object, because an electronic object that was recently invented, which did not exist earlier, then you can say some of the fundamental scientific theories behind the creation of that external object, many of the things used to manufacture that object, or the expertise of the manufacturer who created that object, all these must have existed before that thing really came into existence. You can even suppose you talk about a new rocket, let's say new jet plane, or maybe a new gadget, electronic gadget. Well, from zero it cannot come into existence. A lot of research goes on, and research means going deeper into what already we knew earlier. Or we are actually going deeper into what we already knew. We are actually trying to do things different from the way we did earlier, but still they cannot be totally unrelated. The fundamental doctrine of the Satkaryavada, which I mentioned earlier, is nothing in this world is entirely new. Remember, there is a rival school of philosophy which is called Asatkaryavada. According to that school, everything is a new creation. You see, for example, they will tell you, suppose you are stitching a shirt or a cloth from fiber, maybe from cotton. They will tell you that there is no connection, no relationship between the cotton and the cloth that is made out of the cotton. They will tell you that this is the rival school of philosophy. In fact, in Indian metaphysical systems, unless you study very traditionally, you will understand it is so extensive. There are not hundreds but thousands of books written on hermeneutics, epistemology, and there are different schools. Anyway, there are 74 schools called Vadas and different sub-schools. I won't go into those details later. No. So the point is, the rival school of philosophy will tell you, it's called Arambhavada. Arambha means a new beginning. It tells you, for example, a cloth is totally different from that threads or the cotton from which the cloth is made. A golden ornament is totally different from the gold from which that golden ornament is made. And they have their own arguments. They will tell you, you don't wear threads or cotton. You wear only a cloth that is made from cotton. So there is a fundamental difference with regard to utility, usefulness, practical usefulness. It's called Vyavahara Bheda. And then they will tell you that when you actually turned cotton threads into cloth, actually the cotton threads cease to exist as cotton threads, because now they have become cloth. So there is no connection between. So every new creation, every effect is a new creation. Every effect is it signifies the emergence of something totally new. It did not exist before that. If it existed before that, then what was the need for it to exist now in a different form? They will argue. They will say a pot made of clay, it is something totally new, because you don't use clay to store water. You use a pot to store water. So when you actually turn the clay into a clay pot, the clay ceases to exist as clay. It has become a pot. Now, this is the school called Arambhavada. In fact, for information, Indian schools of Nyayikas means Indian school of logic. Gautama, Dignaga and Navinaya, the three stages of evolution of Indian logic. Gautama was the ancient 1200 BC logician. Then Dignaga was the Madhyamanyaya, he was a great Buddhist, he was a logician. Then Navinaya in the 11th century AD. So you find Indian schools of logic, they believe that every effect is a new creation. Every pot made of clay is a new entity. Every effect is something totally separate and new and different from the cause. It's called Asatkaryavada, which is the opposite of Satkaryavada. So, logically speaking, Satkaryavada seems to be much more real, because that, this is important. Those of you who have got the book with you, 12th Sutra, Atida Anagadam Surupataha Asti Adhubeda Dharmanam. In fact, this view should be kept in mind when we discuss. Again, we will discuss this 12th Sutra. We will discuss the commentary by Vyasa and others. So this is an important thing to remember. Vyasa's commentary will not be understood unless you keep this in mind. So these contrasting schools of thought, according to one school, it's called Asatkaryavada. Every effect is a new creation. And it has, for example, they will tell you a mango tree has absolutely nothing to do with the seed from which it comes. According to Naiyayikas and Vaisheshikas, Indian logicians and Indian atomists, Kanada and Gautama, the two founders of this. But according to Sankhya and Yoga and Vedanta, they will tell you that nothing new can really come into existence. That is essentially the idea conveyed by the 12th Sutra, Atida. Atida means what belongs to the past. Anagata means what is yet to come, what belongs to future. And Surupta Asti, and what is right now existing. So past, present and future, they all exist on the same line. That's what it means. So I can give an example, since you are asked a very fundamental question in Indian philosophy. If you are a goldsmith and if you are running a jewelry shop, you will judge the value of all the golden ornaments you are selling only in terms of the quality of the gold from which it is made. Workmanship is something different, they tell you. But a pot maker, he has many pots in his shop, pots and pans and cups made of same clay, but he may look only at the pot, at the clay. We who use the same clay pot, same glass, we may use for different purposes, we may see the difference, but he will be seeing only clay. Similarly, in Vedanta, those who reach the highest degree of spiritual experience, they see and experience everything in a single dimension. Single dimension. What it means, past and present and future are only lines that we draw in our mind, and our mind is only a changing entity. It is not essentially a fundamental reality. That's the idea behind. That's why Satkaryavada is considered to be much more logical, because it tells you that when something new is created, it only means it manifests right now in front of us in that form. But it existed in a different form before it came into existence. A tree exists as a seed. And after the tree collapses, again the same tree may be existing in the form of seed, its own seeds. The word you draw the line between the past and the present, and between the present and future, there is no line. That is the essence of the 12th sutra. Okay, thank you.
I'm a little confused about this logic applied to thoughts, for example. So
applied to what?
To thinking. I see thinking as an object as well. It's an object of the mind, is it, or intellect? So
our mind and intellect are not unchanging eternal entities. Our mind, the very fact our mind changes every minute. Every minute we become happy and unhappy, excited, and suddenly our mood changes. Anything that undergoes changes all the time. It is there, but it is not absolutely real. It is only changing real. Anything that's subject to changes, that is subject to change all the time. How can you rely upon something that is changing all the time? So behind the mind, behind the intellect, there is something which is unchanging. So if you go deeper and if you go beyond or beyond your mind, beyond the intellect, then there is something that is higher than both. When you connect yourself to that, then you will see, oh, I am not my mind. Because my mind is happy now and happy some other time. Angry now and maybe in another mood later. That changing mind is not my reality. It is something different. That's the idea. When you look up from that higher perspective, even mind is a changing thing. So I know confusion is possible, that's true, but what it means is, from the higher perspective, we are one unchanging eternal reality. So that's why Sankhya is considered to be a penultimate stage that takes you slowly to Vedanta. Not directly, but when you really understand the limitations of Sankhya philosophy, you land the threshold of Vedanta. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. You said you are confused. The very fact that you are confused shows that your mind is confused. You said you are confused. The very fact that your mind is confused shows that Your mind is not your reality. Something that gets confused now, how can you identify yourself with that confused entity? You are something beyond the mind.
Yeah, no, I wasn't identifying with the thoughts. I was wondering
Yeah.
if the thoughts that we haven't had yet, if the past, present, and future is all happening at the same time,
Yeah.
the thoughts that's going to come tomorrow for me, which hasn't yet happened, because I haven't experienced tomorrow yet.
That's
so
right. Yeah.
Are those thoughts in the seed form today?
Yeah.
And it's going to come up tomorrow, or
Yeah.
will I have to experience tomorrow just to see those, to experience the thoughts?
Tomorrow can never be totally separated from today.
Okay.
Just today cannot be totally separated from yesterday. So yesterday, today, and tomorrow. There is a continuity that Patanjali already discussed earlier. These vasanas, tendencies, impression, there is a continuity. How they manifest in different life cycles, there is a difference, but there is a continuing thread of tendencies and vasanas. Just as a continuing thread between a seed from which a tree has come and the tree and the seed that is found in the tree. The trees may have fruits. From the seeds of those fruits, again another tree will come. So you can see continuing thread here. That's why yesterday is not totally different from today, as everyone knows. In that case, tomorrow cannot be totally detached or different from today. It doesn't mean it's the same. It doesn't mean it will be identical. You remember, it doesn't say, Vedanta doesn't tell you that yesterday, today and tomorrow are identical. What Vedanta tells you, they cannot be totally, completely separated. I think it's clear now. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Pranam Maharaj.
Yeah, namaskar.
Desires are beginningless.
Yeah.
That desires, I hear about these three Shaktis, Ichcha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, and Kriya Shakti. I
Yeah.
don't know it's from Shakteyas or from Kashmiri Saivism.
Yeah.
Is Ichcha Shakti, is it here in this sutra, is it referring to that power of the God, that eternal?
Yeah, I know. Now, you can find this in the Lalita Sahasranama. Ideas can be found in Chandi, that Durga Saptashadi, it's called Devi Mahatmya, and so on. In the Shakta tradition, it's Ichcha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti, Surubini. But there, actually the Divine Mother is conceived to be the creator, the sustainer, and eventually the source of dissolution of this universe. So, without an Ichcha, and along with that Jnanam, nothing can be created. So, this is just an attempt to define and understand the ultimate divine feminine, the feminine divinity, as the creator, sustainer, and the source of dissolution of everything. So, that Ichcha is different from this Ichcha. See, for example, Asisha. Asisha is essentially, it means desire. But here, it is interpreted in the Yoga Sutra literature as desire to continue, to enjoy, to live, desire to continue. In fact, more or less, it is used in the same sense in which it is used by Buddhists when they talk about Praditya Samutpada, the 12-link chain that is responsible for life cycles, the past, present, and future. So that Ichcha, the desire to enjoy, the desire to live, the clinging to life, so to speak, clinging to life. That's the meaning of the word in the sutra, the 10th sutra, Tasam Anaditvam cha asisho nityatvad. So these vasanas are beginningless. They don't have a beginning. The reason is this asisha, the desire, the clinging to life, the desire to live and enjoy life, that is linked to vasanas. It is always there. It is always there. It is eternal in that sense. Because desire is a manifestation of vasana. So tasam here means vasananam. It means it relate to vasanas. Vasanas are nothing but expressions of desire that are already accumulated in the mental system called chittam. They manifest as clinging to life, desire to enjoy, continuity, in fact. So, it is eternal in that sense. Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti, Surubini in the Shakta literature. The Ichha Shakti is actually the fundamental will, without which and knowledge and the creation, which are essentially what is keeping this world going on. So that is considered to be the essential characteristics of this divine feminine archetype called either called Durga, Lalita, Chandi. You can find in the Shakta literature. That's the idea behind it. That desire is different from the word asisha here. Totally different. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Maharaj,
Yeah, welcome.
so Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, was it written after Buddha came or before that?
Well, actually, most probably, of course, Patanjali must have lived before Buddha, but Vyasa is the name of a great commentator, not Vyasa, the writer of Mahabharata, or the Vyasa who classified the Vedas. It could be another Vyasa who must have written this commentary Bhashya on Patanjali Yoga Sutra. The first and most fundamental commentary is Vyasa's commentary. So it is Vyasa who actually interprets the sutra as a refutation of Vijnanavada. It comes after the 15th sutra, Vastu Swami Chitta Bheda. The word Chitta is used. That's again the term used in the Vijnanavada school of philosophy, it's Yogacara system. Chitta means the mental platform. External objects have a reality, have an ontological existence only so long as you are aware of their existence. Otherwise they have no existence in that sense. So most probably Vyasa must be a great writer who lived during the post-Buddha period. That's the idea behind it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Pranam Maharaj, one question about Sanskrit probably. What is the difference between Hetu and Karana?
Hetu. Oh, Karana is used in the sense of cause. In Vedanta philosophy, literature, everywhere. Hetu is a term used in mostly Nyaya context. Yeah. It is an important. Of course, in Mandukya Karika, Gaudapata Karika, it comes. But Hetu is an important technical term in Nyaya vocabulary. Karana is a more general. It's a much more general term, in the sense, for example, you don't say the seed is the hetu of the tree, you don't say. You say the seed is the karana of the tree, you can say. Well, cause effect relationship, you use the word, the karana, karya. Karya is effect, karana is the cause. You cannot replace the word karana with word hedu when you are referring to karana, karya link, mean cause effect link. Hedu is a very important technical term used in the Nyaya literature, Vaisheshika literature. Of course, for that very reason, because Nyaya is an important element in understanding Vedanta also, all systems of Indian philosophy can be properly studied only with a proper understanding of Nyaya. So in that sense, this is also used.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There is a question in the chart related to this, Maharaj. Hetu, does it mean reason?
Hedu can also mean reason. Yeah, Hedu can also be interpreted as reason. Yeah, Hedu is a term that is very clearly used in Nyaya and Vedanta everywhere, because Nyaya reasoning method is important in understanding Vedanta also. So, Karana cannot be used in places where the word Hetu is used. For example, episteme Pramana Shastra, you don't use the word Hetu. Suppose you see inference, there's a smoke on the mountains, so there should be fire. That is the inference, anumana. So you don't use the word karanam there. You have to use the word hetu when you explain that inferential reasoning method. You cannot use the word karana there. But when you use the word karya, the effect, for example, pot is the effect. Golden ornament is the effect. There you don't use the word hetu in place of karana. When you talk about, for example, gold is karana and golden ornament is karya, the vriksha or tree is karya, bija or seed is karana. You don't use the word hedu in that context. That's the idea.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, the next few sutras we will discuss because they should be understood with the light of Vyasa's commentary, who brings in a statement with a view to make sure that the Buddhist Vijnanavada view of the unreality of external objects cannot be accepted. That's what Vyasa says. That is, nachaiga chittatantram vastu tad apramanagam eka chittatantram na apramanagam tada. He uses this word. So we'll discuss this later. Thank you. Namaskar.
Swamiji, there is a question in YouTube, Maharaj.
Yeah, most welcome. Yeah.
The devotee is asking, was Patanjali considered a Buddha?
No.
Was he going about his life doing karma yoga?
Well, there is no view, not even by the wildest stretch of imagination can you ever say that Patanjali had anything to do with Buddhism. Patanjali belonged to pre-Buddhist period. Buddha belonged to 6th or 5th century BC, and Patanjali must be much earlier figure. Many of the commentators who come in the lineage of Patanjali tradition must have been Buddhist, because Yogacara system of philosophy got that name because many of the practitioners of Buddhist monks of the Yogacara system must have been practitioners of yoga also. That could be the reason. But Patanjali was not a Buddhist. Never. There were some commentators in the yoga tradition who must have been Buddhist, at least according to some scholars.
Pranam Maharaj, one more question.
Yeah.
To a cause to turn into effect, there has to be conditions, there has to be time,
Yeah.
and few other things. So is this indicating Anekavada? Some people argue that if we accept cause and effect as real, then all the other things must be accepted as well for them to coexist.
True. So that's why, so according to those who uphold this Satkaryavada, who believe that the effect pre-exists in cause, they would tell you that Nama, Rupa and this Vyavahara. Nama means name, Rupa means form, Vyavahara means the practical utility. They don't count because they go on changing. You are using a pot made of clay for storing water. You are using a glass, a cup made of clay for drinking water, and you are using a jar made of clay for some other purpose. So whatever may be the utility and whatever may be the shape, the form, and whatever name you give it, essentially it is clay only, because we have to understand that before it became a pot, it was clay, and after it is broken, it again doesn't cease to be clay, and therefore even when it is standing in front of you on your table as a clay pot, then also it is non-different from clay. It is clay only. So before it became a pot, it was clay, and after you break it, it remains. It continues to be clay. Continues to be clay, and also therefore when it is sitting in the form of a clay pot where you are storing water, then also it is not anything other than clay. So what does it mean? Past, present and future, clay only. That is the Atida Anagada, that particular sutra is important here. So from that standpoint, if you accept Satkaryavada, everything is seen in one dimension, past, present and future. What is in the past is not Vyakta, not manifest. It is Sukshma. And what is yet to come is not Vyakta, it is also Sukshma. But as I mentioned earlier, yesterday, today and tomorrow, they are not identical, just as clay pot is not identical with clay. Remember. But they are not totally different, as Arambhavadins will tell you, Naiyayikas and Vaisheshikas. That's why the Sankhyas, Vedantins of different schools, Advaitins or Visitadvaitins, they all accept some form of Satkaryavada. That's all.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. Thank you, Namaskar, for those questions. Okay. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.
Pranam Maharaj.
Recording stopped.
Namaskar.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Yeah, Namaskar.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.